everyone, and welcome to FN6820. This is a special topics graduate course at Bowling Green State University, and we will be discussing environmental nutrition. I'm your instructor, Mary Rozga. I know I've had some of you before, and I'm so excited to work with you again. So this is the first time we're offering this class, and I am thrilled to teach it because I have a very long-standing interest in how our food is produced and how that impacts human health. So in this course, we're going to be walking through all aspects of our food environment and discuss how it impacts human health. So we'll be talking about how food is grown, who is harvesting it, and how it's being harvested, its processing, packaging, manufacturing, waste, transportation. We're going to be talking about a lot of different aspects of the food system. And this is really important timing because, as I'm sure we all hear throughout the news all the time, we are being forced to pay more and more attention to the environmental aspects of food production, as we're realizing really what a cost our current food system is having on our environment and human health, and basically the consequences of the environment and how they impact human health. So these consequences of how food is produced really has an impact on us as nutrition professionals. Now, as I'm sure you can guess, many of the topics that we're going to be discussing in this class, may be a little controversial or maybe sensitive topics. We all have, probably personal and professional feelings about different food production methods and really what state we think that the earth is in. So the goal of this class is just to be mostly discussion oriented. I think because we have such varied experiences, especially in a class that's delivered entirely online, we get a really diverse population of students. And I think we should use that to our advantage for this topic so that we can gain many perspectives from our classmates. So in this space, I definitely want to make it a safe space for expressing informed opinions and for asking questions. And in order to accomplish that, I think it goes without saying we really need to be respectful of each other's perspectives so that we can grow as nutrition professionals and we can understand the perspectives of our colleagues and our clients. So I think, why don't I just tell you a little bit about myself and, my kind of journey with environmental nutrition. So actually, it was involvement in the food system that brought me to nutrition in the first place. While I was doing my undergrad, I worked at a few different small sustainable farms, and it really got me interested in how food was being produced at a grand scale and the quality of food that we were consuming as a population. So I did my undergrad in dietetics at Central Michigan University. And then after that, I worked at a local food store where we really tried to focus on local food production. We also did a lot of organic foods. But, I think throughout this whole time, that whole period, in thinking about the food system, it really was kind of, my food choices were really more intuitive to me. And rather than, understanding the academic aspect of it. So for various reasons, I decided to go on and do my master's, and I did a master's in nutrition research at a very small university called Bastyr University in the Seattle area. So Bastyr is really unique because it was focused on whole food nutrition and really had also a focus on the environmental aspects of food and nutrition, and I really learned a lot in that setting, and had my environmental nutrition course there as well. Now, when I was doing my master's, I became pregnant with my first child, and that really opened up a lot more questions about food and the environment, and how the environment and what I was consuming, which was an ample amount of food, was was affecting the my daughter really. So that opened up a lot more questions. And then I moved on to doing my PhD in nutrition at Michigan State University, where I specialized in breastfeeding programs for low-income women, which of course, again, this has environmental aspects as well, because our infant feeding choices really impact the amount of waste that we're generating. In both breastfeeding and formula feeding, we have to be really careful about the toxins we're exposing our infants to. So there was always an environmental aspect there. And, Michigan State is a largely agricultural university, so environmental nutrition was always an aspect of what we examined there. So I also did my dietetic internship at Michigan State University. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm hoping that in the discussion board today, which I will talk more about discussion boards, but I'll be asking you to introduce yourself to your classmates. And this is really, we're going to be having online discussion boards throughout the semester, so it's really nice to get a feel for who our audience is and who we're talking to, and just be able to get to know each other even though we're doing this online. So next I want to talk about, one more thing. So as I'm sure you either already do or will once you get into this class, you really start to notice how many stories in the media are out there about food and nutrition. So I definitely want to appeal to you really to, if you see interesting stories like this, please share it with me or share it with your classmates, just so we can all, as we're learning about this, really try to get a current view of what's going on in our society in relation to food and the environment. So let's just try to make this as dynamic as possible. And I really see this class being mostly discussion based, where we learn together and we're really trying to keep an open mind about all these really complicated aspects of food production. There are absolutely no easy answers. There are people who are studying all these individual aspects of this increasingly important topic and dedicate their lives to it. So this is a lot of material to cover in this course, and I think we just really need to focus on learning together and trying to develop objective perspectives that are evidence-based, so that we can have a working knowledge of this information. So your syllabus is posted, and I'm going to let you look at that on your own. This is a completely online delivered course. You don't have to have any specific times that you're attending, but you do definitely need to keep up with the material. The course is organized into modules. So on the syllabus, it'll tell you, this is the week that we're in, this is the module that we're in, and that module will contain, maybe a brief lecture from me or announcements. It will also contain your weekly readings that you need to do for that week. And there will also, and every week there will also be a discussion board. And the discussion boards are 10 points every week, and they're really almost a third of your grade. So, it's really important to stay on top of these. And the discussion boards also ask questions that are meant to, first generate discussion and also give you a guide when you're reading, so that you can kind of read your information a little bit deeper for specific aspects that we're trying to examine in the literature. So we do have a textbook. I believe it's either the Food and the Environment or the Environment and Food. I can't remember, but this is actually one of the only textbooks that is out there about food and the environment. So I'm really excited to look at that more, and there will be some readings from the textbook, of course, and then we'll also be having other academic readings that will be posted each week. So this week is a little heavy. There's 4 readings, which there typically will not be, but these are, none of these are long or very complicated. at all, so sorry about that. None of these are really long or complicated, so it shouldn't take you too long to do these readings, but there will be quite a bit of, quite a few journal articles in there as well. So for discussion boards, again, I just want to emphasize that we are all being, respectful to each other, and also that we're really thinking deeply and critically. So the goal of these discussion boards, and there you can look in your syllabus for a little bit more detailed discussion or description, but really is to get you to think deeply and about the material and develop your scientific writing skills. So really your points will be based on interpretation, critical analysis, depth of thought, and so on. And then another part of your discussion board grade will be responding to your classmates' posts too. And again, we want to generate discussion because this is really how we're going to learn the best. So real quickly, I just kind of wanted to look at one of the readings for today. This one. So this is a fabulous article that I found from the organization Healthcare Without Harm. And if you'll notice at the bottom of the first page of this article, it has a claim that the framework from this article does align with that developed by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Hunger and Environmental Nutrition Group. So this, really is in line with what our standards of practice are. But this article just gives a really nice overview of environmental nutrition and some of the aspects, or the most important aspects, especially that we'll be touching on this week. And then it gives a couple of real-world examples, including obesity and meat consumption, and how those would be interpreted within the environmental nutrition framework. So when we're talking about environmental nutrition, I feel like it's encapsulated very simply and effectively in one of the figures from this article. And this is posted. All of the readings will either be from your textbook or I will post them. So I thought this figure 1 was really a nice summary of what environmental nutrition is. So in traditional nutrition, and this is really mostly how I learned, we focuses on the biochemical components of food and individual food consumption. So client A is having this issue. What can client A do to change their behavior? And basically, we're evaluating their diet based on vitamins, minerals, calories, fat, fiber, etc. So, of course, we know that these aspects of nutrition are really important when we're evaluating diet and trying to understand what our interventions will be. However, increasingly, our profession is recognizing that this is half, maybe less than half of the picture. And instead, we really need to look at the broader environment of nutrition if we're really going to be able to address the source of the problems for our clients and patients. So we can see here that for environmental nutrition, this accounts for the social, political, economic, and environmental factors related to the food system as a whole. So some of the questions we would ask were, how was this grown? Was there agrotechnology? Was there pesticides, synthetic fertilizers? What were the waste products of how this food was grown? What labor standards were used? Were toxic chemicals used in packaging? What are our transportation miles? And really, some of these overlap, okay? So for instance, we know that foods grown in specific ways have maybe more phytochemicals, which are better for our health and do impact the biochemical components. However, there are aspects that are just a little bit more exclusive to this side of the equation because, especially when we talk about social justice, really, which is, again, a touchy topic. I don't want to really think about migrant workers are picking my produce or working in, these facilities where meat is produced on a grand scale. But we have to think about these things because these someone who, let me give you an example. Perhaps we have a migrant worker who's working in very close proximity to pesticides that are applied to the plants, and so they get really large doses of these. Well, of course, that is going to impact, both the food that we're consuming, but, also extremely importantly, it may impact the health of the person who is exposed to these chemicals because they're growing the food for us. So it gets really complicated, and there's a lot to think about. And I can't pretend that one course will be even adequate, but I think it will help us to think about a lot of the issues that are important. And I think asking the questions are a very, very important stage in trying to improve our current food system situation. So read this article. It's just a really nice synopsis of environmental nutrition, and I'll be using more materials from this organization throughout the semester. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the syllabus really quick here. I'm going to have you mostly look at the syllabus yourself, but I did want to talk about one of your big assignments. So we can see, a big part of your grade is a term paper. Okay, and this term paper can be about any aspect of environmental nutrition that you want, but it is going to be a scientifically written paper where you critically analyze journal articles and then synthesize the information and give your conclusions. So, although it's maybe not the most exciting lecture topic today, I want to give you the information about how you can proceed with this project so that you can get started whenever you want and you feel like that you have the tools to do this. So let's first look at the assignments. So for this paper, you're going to write about the impact of an aspect of the food system on human health, and that can be anything. It can be anything, and we'll go through a couple of examples, but it could be, how is the food grown? What are some basically environmental programs that are helping us examine this issue? So, we could really look at farm-to-school programs, basically, or methods of reducing waste in hospitals, or anything like that. So it can be a really wide variety of topics, and I really want you to pick something that will appeal to your interest area. So this paper is going to be about 7 to 8 pages, single-spaced. We're going to do a brief introduction of the topic, and then you're going to do critical analysis of approximately 10 peer-reviewed journal articles, and then a conclusion, okay? So for the rest of the assignments, I will give you more information as we move closer to them. But again, I just wanted to give you these tools so that you could get started whenever you want. So a couple of the readings that you have are focused on this topic. So first, I want to talk about how to conduct a literature review and how to critically analyze articles. So, this might be something that you've already discussed, but I really think that, I have seen as a professor just such a wide variety of exposure to this type of education that I definitely want to go over it. So I did give you a website to look at, which is just kind of an overview of what a literature review is. And in it they talk about that if you are examining a bigger topic, of course, I am not going to expect you to look at every single article on that topic, but but you may want to narrow your topic enough so that you can look at, at least a good bulk of the evidence on that topic. So I'm going to give a couple of examples right now, and I can tell you how I do it, but you may have a way that works better for you. So we're just going to kind of walk through this and learn through this together. So when we talk about a literature review, it's not about, okay, let me think of an example. Let's pesticides and cancer, okay? No, let me go back on that. How about pesticides and Parkinson's? Okay, so that's definitely an association that's being examined in the literature. However, there may be thousands of articles about that. So you could choose to do a couple of things. You could either narrow your topic to maybe a specific pesticide or a specific area of the country that it's been studied in, or a specific population. Or what you could do is, take the most recent articles that are available, critically analyze those, and then you could do, an additional paragraph that's just kind of saying, and here are what the big reviews on the literature say, so that I know you've looked at the body of the information. So you could do that if you want to do a big topic, or you could just narrow your topic down. So I think it gets a little tricky to, understand how you narrow a topic adequately. Now, personally, let's go to the library website here real quick. So this is just the Bowling Green website. And again, I know this is review for some of you, but hopefully you can pick up something new. So then we go to the libraries. Okay, and I know a lot of people really like using Summon, where you would type in your topic, your keywords, and a ton of things come up. So you would get dissertations, you would get theses, you could get pop culture references or magazines, you could get journal articles, and you can sort according to that. So I think most people have used Summon and have been introduced to Summon. So if that works for you, go for it. I can tell you for myself that sometimes I find Summon very overwhelming. Like I'll get 15,000, things back, and I just don't really know how to sort through 15,000 things. So I can tell you that for me, I really like using the PubMed or Medline database, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate here. So first I'm going to go to all databases, and I'm going to go to P for PubMed. Here it is, PubMed, and I'm going to connect. Okay, so here is what the interface looks like. And so PubMed is composed of, thousands and thousands of academic journals, and everything in here is peer-reviewed literature, basically. And if not, it's clear, but, they're all citable references, basically. And there's millions and millions of journal articles in here. So how this works is, first thing I like to do is they have what's called a mesh database. And this is basically a way to search keywords in PubMed. So I just open this in a new tab. Okay, and so you can search keywords, and you don't necessarily have to have keywords. Sometimes I'll just pull up, or I guess you don't necessarily have to have the keywords that they define to get meaningful results, but it helps. It helps them understand exactly what you're looking for. So I thought we'd start with a couple of examples. So the first one I'm going to start with is food to farm. No, farm to, let's see. How about, let's try school lunch. Okay, nothing in there. Let's just try school. If we can't get anything, that's okay. Schools. Okay, schools, great. And I want to talk about, like, farm to school. Agriculture. Let's try, so I'm going to go back to my main thing. And I'm going to type in farm to school. So you can do a couple of different things. I know that is a term that a lot of people use, is farm to school. So I'm going to put that in quotes because I'm going to have them look for articles that say exactly farm to school. And then I'm going to search in a different way using the mesh terms to show you. So farm to school, what do we got here? Okay, look, I just got 27 articles back. Perfect. So let me go through here, and I'm going to see what articles look like something that I'd be interested in. So one thing I could do is I could just choose reviews, and okay, the role of social cognitive theory in farm to school related activities, implications for child nutrition. So this might be an article, if I'm interested in this topic, this might be an article that I just read first. It's from 2013. It's going to have a pretty up-to-date view about farm to school, and it might have a lot of really excellent references that I can use as well. Not that I'll only use the references from that review article, but it could give me a start. So for the articles that you critically analyze for your 10 reference articles in your paper, you need to have original articles, okay? So you're going to read reviews, and these are going to help give you a really good overview. They're going to clue you into the topic that you're discussing. But when we're critically analyzing articles, we need to have them be original articles. That can be a meta-analysis, but it cannot be a review, okay? So we want to look for articles, original articles. So these would have, first my introduction, then I would have a method section of what I actually did in the article, and then, specific results that were generated in this article, and then my discussion. So I want original articles. So I'm going to go through and see, what of these would be kind of interesting for me to pursue. Maybe I don't know my exact topic. I want to do farm to school, but I just don't know, exactly what I'm going to do. So, okay, look at this one. Factors affecting fruit and vegetable school lunch waste. Okay, so maybe that sounds interesting to me. Maybe I'll do fruit and vegetable consumption, or maybe I'll do lunch waste. So I need to, look at the abstract to see if that's good. But I'm just going to check it for now so I can go back to it. Let's see. Fruits and vegetables displace but do not decrease total energy in school lunches. I want to look at that. And this is just going to help me get a start. So this has 27 articles I can look through. And if I find an article that's really works for me, sorry, these stupid Facebook things keep coming up even though I don't have Facebook up. Anyway, so basically I'm going to try to get a topic within the scope. This, I don't think I would have to narrow anything. There's only 27 articles total. So to find 10 on one topic, that's going to really be the challenge of it. But, some of these articles may have references in them that I can look into that didn't necessarily come up on this search, but might be related. So you can approach it that way. So that's one way, farm to school. I knew that was a term. I put it in quotes. Another thing I can do is use the mesh terms that we just looked at. So I would put school, and then I use these kind of connector words when I'm searching in PubMed. So I can put and agriculture. Another thing I could put is and agriculture or farm. Or I could put, so an or is another term. So we would put those in capitals just to help the PubMed understand what exactly we're looking for. But for now, I'm just going to do school and agriculture. And let's see how many results we get back from that one. Look at, okay, 22,320. That is obviously not going to work. So let's try and narrow it down more. I want to try to talk about vegetable consumption. So let's see if I can. What's my mesh term here? Vegetables. Okay, I'm just going to put it in vegetables. Well, now I'm down to 473. So one thing that I might try to do is I can, there's additional filters, but here's some easy filters here. I'm going to choose humans. I don't think there's many non-human ones, but okay, look, that did make a big difference. So now I'm down to 231. Okay, then let's see. I think what I might do at this point is maybe I will choose reviews. There's 23, and I'll just kind of go through these and see what really appeals to me. And that will help me narrow my search more. And then, therefore, I can, narrow up here more and pick my topic for something that, that 10 articles, when I critically analyze them, will be, a really good representation of the literature. And if there's much more, then I can just summarize it in an additional paragraph. Okay, so there's one example. I want to give one more example about something that would, a seemingly different topic. So for this topic, I wanted to examine, I think about what am I concerned about for my own kids when I think about environmental nutrition? And one of the things is all of the additives that are added to our food and food processing. So one thing that I've heard, I don't really know about academically, is that there is a relationship between food colorings and ADHD. So maybe I'm interested in looking at that as a topic. So first I'm in my mesh terms just to see, what kind of term keywords do they identify. So let's put in food additives first and see if how that comes out. Okay, exactly like I wanted to. Great. And I also want to check food coloring, maybe. Okay, so they say it's food coloring agents. And then my other term I want to do ADHD. Attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity. Okay. So in my search for my articles, first I'm going to undo my filters here. And then so I'm going to use the mesh terms, food additives and food coloring agents. And I know I should put attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity, but I think I can get away with ADHD. But if not, then I'll go back and do it correctly. Okay, so I don't think that it did do enough attention. I only got 49 results, and I would think that there would be more. First, I want to attention deficit. Spell that. Okay, let's see what we get here. Okay, I only got 50 there. Okay, that's actually very doable. So 50 articles. Okay, well, great. So I can go through this. And I can, so this would be one I want to look at, ADHD. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So when we look at very technical aspects like this, we might get articles that look, beyond our scope. And, for the purposes of this class, you're welcome to cater to what you're comfortable with. So for me, I do not even know what sulfotransferase is off of the top, inhibition is off of the top of my head. I'd have to read the article. But really, I might be more interested in, kind of these overall, some of these articles that maybe I can understand better. And that's not to say that you have to understand every aspect of every article, but that, you don't want to be dedicating your whole semester to learning, these very in-depth biochemical reactions that you may, never really need again. So you do want to be selective about the type of articles you're reading. If it has, words that you are totally unfamiliar with, a lot of them in the title, you might not want to examine that one as closely. And you might instead want to look at, food additives and behavior in 8 or 9-year-old children in Hong Kong, a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial. Okay, I definitely want to look at that. And so I'm going to go through these again and basically just see what is the evidence, how can I group the evidence into a specific topic that can, be represented pretty decently by 10 articles. So another thing I might do is just, again, go to reviews, see if there's anything, and then start by reading, a recent review and help that kind of catch me up to speed on the topic. So that's how you conduct a literature review. So I'm not saying that you have to critically analyze every article on the topic, but you do need to be aware of what breadth of information you are searching or you are representing. So either you're going to do all of the, you're going to examine all the articles on this kind of somewhat limited topic, and you're going to say that's all there is on this limited, narrowed topic, or you're going to say, here are 10 articles from this topic, there's much more, and here is what the conclusions of the reviews are, basically. Okay, so now that we have looked at that, next I want to talk about how to critically analyze the articles that you do find. Okay, so first I would like to say, I'm going to pull up the syllabus really quick. So I'm just going to go to our schedule. So paper, topic, and references are due on 2/8, and I believe this is 25 points, so you do need to turn it in for points. I think it's 25. Okay, so that is due on March 6th. And at that point, you need to know what your topic is. You need to be giving me all of, the references that you're using. Can those change after? Yes, those can change after. But basically, I need to know that early in the semester, you have picked your topic and you have your references so that, we don't end up with a week before someone saying, I didn't realize there was nothing on this topic, which has happened before. And so we just want to make sure you're going to get a really solid, well done article so that you have the appropriate time to do this right. Okay, so that's going to be due on March 6th. And then the whole term paper will be due on April 10th. So, again, as I discussed, let's pull up this. So as I discussed, you're going to have a brief introduction of your topic in this paper. The vast majority of it is going to be critical analysis of your approximately 10 research articles. And then you'll have a conclusion that you do. So how do we do a critical appraisal of scientific articles? Okay, so I think this is, just something that really takes practicing and practicing and practicing. And I know that, maybe on the surface level, you think, why do I need to critically analyze these articles? These are the experts writing them. These are peer reviewed. I can trust them. And to an extent, that is absolutely positively true. And these, the professionals who are writing this have a specific point of view and a specific perspective. And you, as a different type of nutrition professional, have a different view and a different perspective. And you need to, they may not know how their article applies or doesn't apply in a real world setting. And as a nutrition professional, especially as one who is going to have a master's degree, you are really expected to be an expert in the field. And you're expected to be able to provide evidence-based information to your clients. And there are so many journals out there, more and more all the time. And I think more and more, if you want to get something published, you can, especially if you have enough money to get it published. So it really is important that we're critically analyzing these articles and saying, is this valid? I mean, is this even a valid conclusion? Are they making fair conclusions based on their data? Do their results, support their conclusions? And we really need to do this so that we can provide the best, most evidence-based care possible to our clients. So, again, I think I've seen that there's just such a wide variety of skill in this tool. So I just wanted to take this first lecture to go over this because I wanted to, make sure you have the tools you need to be reading these academic articles that I'm assigning, and also so that you can complete this assignment in a high-quality scientific critical analysis. Okay, so before I go into this article that that you were assigned, I first want to talk about just, how do you even read an article? So yeah, we want to critically analyze it, but that kind of comes second. What do I do first? So first, when we get a scientific article assigned to us, basically, before we even start reading it, we just kind of want to consider the article as a whole. So look at the title. The title is supposed to be very descriptive and, should give you a good clue about what the article is about, or, maybe even their important finding. Next, we want to look at who wrote the article. I feel like I should have a scientific article up instead of this one. This isn't a peer-reviewed article, but let's just pull it up anyway, just for an example. So this is, this was not a peer-reviewed journal article, although it's extremely academic and well-cited. But we still I think the principles still do apply. So let's look at who are the authors here? So usually for a journal article, it'd be at the top, but for this one, it's a little different. Down here. Okay, so here are our contributing authors. So we know that we have an RD here, so we know we have a nutrition professional. We know that we have two PhDs, although it doesn't necessarily say in what fields these PhDs are, although I'm guessing it would be ecological sustainability, since that's kind of um, the premise of this group. But basically, we want to understand who are the authors and where are they coming from, and do they have the expertise that they need to be writing this journal article. I want to give you a quick example. So I can't remember if this was, I think it was a few years back. I want to say it was in one of the Academy's journals. I think it was the main journal. Anyway, they had a perspective as one of the first articles, and it was, I think, just as a disclaimer, I think the Academy has definitely changed its tune on this, but the general direction of the article was that, too many people are thinking that they have food intolerances and unnecessarily cutting foods out of their diet, which may be true, but basically it was making a lot of pretty big claims, almost to the effect where it was almost hinting that, these kinds of food intolerances were really maybe not legitimate or whatever. So I went and I looked at the author of the paper, not an RD, not a PhD or MS in, nutrition at all. It was a journalist. So, that really impacted how I interpreted what she wrote. So that's just an example. So we're still in the first part. What is this article? What are they trying to tell me? Who's reading it? And then I can read the abstract for a really good summary about what the article is about. And for you, that's the way that you can screen these articles for your paper, is generally through the abstract. If it's not in the abstract, it still might be in the paper and it still could be useful to you if they, maybe it was like a secondary outcome that they examined. Your topic was a secondary outcome they examined. So it still could be in there, but this is going to give you a really good overview, and you might just read the abstract and say, oh, that was nothing like what I had in mind. I'm not going to print this article. I'm not going to save it, whatever. Okay. So then I want to see, so I looked at the authors, who their qualifications are, what audience are they addressing? And basically, I can tell that by the more technical it is, the more specific of an audience they're trying to address. So this article, it's really well cited, it's very academic, but it's written for the general population, and I think that's really clear. So just looking at the figure that we looked at before, if it wasn't for the general population, this is a pretty simplistic diagram, extremely effective, wonderful, but probably not targeted toward only nutrition professionals, but rather to the general population. So we also want to know that when we're interpreting the article. Okay. As we're reading through, again, you just kind of want to be skimming through in the beginning, basically. What is this article about in general? And then, one thing I might do is even go look at the references before I even go in depth and just say, does this look like what I am wanting? So, let's see. I know that here's a World Health Organization one. I can see that they quote a lot of original journal articles. It looks legitimate, and I definitely, especially since this is maybe meant for the general population, this is something that I want to see before I invest my time in reading these, because as you know, these take a while to read. Okay, so after I've kind of looked at the article as a whole, then I'm going to kind of almost skim through it, and I'm going to see, okay, maybe spend a little bit more time on aspects that I think are interesting, or on tables, or on figures, and just kind of skim through it. Get like an overview, like let yourself form your questions as you are kind of skimming through and getting an overview, again, before you invest your time in reading it in depth. Another thing you can do while you skim it is, a lot of times I'll just read, these first paragraphs, which are going to be an overview, and then I'll go all the way, sorry, I hope nobody's getting dizzy by this, but, and then I'll go all the way to these last paragraphs which are, typically the conclusion. And just again, so that when I go and read it, I know what the author has in mind, I know what the end point is, and I can try to critically analyze if the author gave me enough information to get to the conclusion that they reached. Okay, so that's after I've kind of skimmed it. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to read it in more depth. And after since you've looked at it as a whole and skimmed through it, it's going to be a lot easier to read it in depth because you know what you're reading for. You know what you're looking at. Versus if you just start an article cold, it may just take you a while to even think, what are they even talking about? But it'll go faster once you give yourself a little bit of setup. Okay, so you're going to look through the article. You're going to look up unfamiliar terms. You're going to take notes, whether you're looking at it, on the screen or on a printed version, question mark, basically. Write your questions. They may answer them later, but that's okay. Then you'll still, if they didn't answer it later, then you'll remember the questions that were asked, or, maybe where there was a hole in the argument, or what did they forget to put in that would have helped this argument, or, well, they said that they recorded this many people, but the results only show this many people, so question mark, where's the rest of the people? So that kind of thing.'re going to go through and take your notes and critically think, critically read what the author has written. So after you're done with that, what's your overall impression first? And then you want to try to start thinking very, kind of forming your critical analysis. So some of the questions, that you might ask are, was anything left unfinished? Did they say they were going to do this in their objective, but then we never saw it again? Or what are these results? They never even said they were going to do this. What does this have to do with anything? Did the author make their case? When they told you what their objective and their hypothesis was, did they prove that? Or did they say, were they clear that their hypothesis was proven no? So are they being clear? Did they make their case? And then, very importantly, especially for us as nutrition professionals, was the point made in the larger context of nutrition and society? So, it doesn't really apply as much to this article, but in a lot of scientific articles, it's a very specific or limited scope for one specific article. And we need to understand how that fits, or else, why are we even reading this? Why are we considering it? If there's a huge, complicated dietary intervention to lower cholesterol by 3 points, then, is this something that I'm going to advise to my patients? Is it even clinically relevant? So how is it placed in the general scope? Another good question is, did the author's discipline lead the author to ignore other ideas? So I think one common issue that we need to consider in nutrition, for instance, is the psychological aspect of why we eat what we eat and what our behaviors are. So, if I'm a nutrition professional, am I ignoring this other important factor that's impacting why the person eats the way they do? And this is really, 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 really important with environmental nutrition because, we're looking outside of the individual and looking to the broader environment of how food is produced and delivered to the individual. And so really, do we need to set, in regards to nutrition, is the scope too narrow, or do we need to consider a different view from a different perspective? So that's basically how we're going to, that's one method of going through and reading journal articles for optimal comprehension. So let's pull up this article that I had you guys read. And I think most of this should be pretty big review to you, just saying how is an article laid out. I think you all know that. But I think what's really great about this article is that the authors go through each section and say, here are some of the really important questions you need to be asking about this section in order to analyze it critically. So, okay. So is the study design suited to fulfill the aims of the study? If I'm asking a specific question, Is the way I'm conducting the study going to help me answer the question? This is up to you. You are to give an informed, opinion about this. And maybe you're not right, maybe you are right, but it's about thinking critically and trying to say, you know, is this done so that is this study done so that it can answer these important questions that the authors have sought to answer? What type of study was chosen? Does it permit the aims to be addressed? So that's just what we talk about. Is the study's endpoint precisely defined? So if I'm talking about I want to decrease obesity in my study as my goal, okay? So what does that mean? Am I trying to decrease waist circumference? Am I trying to decrease BMI? Am I simply trying to increase lean muscle mass? And you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of different ways of measuring specific outcomes. And the authors need to say, this is exactly how I am going to how I am going to measure it. So basically, from start to finish, the article should be transparent. You should be able to understand where the author is coming from. Now, of course, they're experts in the field. You're not going to be able to, understand exactly why they did everything that they did, but that you should be able to follow it, especially with your background. Okay, so these are questions about methodology, and these can help you as you're doing your critical analysis of each article, and that each article should be about a half of a page, single-spaced for the critical analysis. So you got to get to the point. You would say, in this article, they did, a brief, maybe 1 to 2 sentences about the methods, and then you're going to go into your critical analysis. And you'll read through this article and you'll say, oh, this, not all of these questions are going to apply to every article, but they give a really good overview of questions that you should be asking. So this is just kind of a nice table, best type of study for epidemiological investigations, but just use that as is helpful to you. And then critical questions. I really like this box. So does the study pose interesting and relevant questions? Okay, this is really important. Is the question that they're asking even worth studying? Is it worth the money? Is it worth the resources that we're putting into it? Does the study investigate the predefined study goals? Is the study able to address the aims and hypothesis? Was the missing number of values too large to permit a meaningful analysis? Was the number of cases too small and thus the statistical power of the study too low? So this is a big one where, when I ask students to critically analyze the article, I get without fail, the survey or the sample size was too small. Okay, I agree that is a very important limitation, but at this level of graduate study, you need to be going deeper than that. So what you could say is something, so let's see. Let's say they had no power analysis in their methods section. You would say something to the effect of, the authors did not provide a power analysis to inform the number of participants that would be needed in order to prove statistical significance of the results. Or you would say, or if they did do a power analysis and they did have that amount of subjects, then you don't need to say it's too small of a sample size. They met their sample size that they needed. So, of course, it could always be bigger, but that wouldn't really be a limitation if they said they needed this many and they enrolled and studied that many participants. So, was the study poorly and inadequately monitored? Does the data support the author's conclusions? So these are questions that you will have. And then, of course, the big one, does the authors or sponsors of the study have irreconcilable financial or ideological conflicts of interest? I can talk about my area that, oftentimes when I'm looking at infant feeding studies, if it's by someone like Nestle or a big formula producer, it's not that it's not valuable science, and it's not that I won't read the article or that it's not valid or it's not interesting, but I think you always need to take that with a grain of salt and say, okay, is what they're saying in line with the body of the literature? And if it's not in line with the body of the literature, and if it's, skewed in the direction of the, financial or ideological conflict of interest, well, that needs to be something that we recognize and note. And then there's a really nice table here, table 2, that's just asking some overall questions that you need to ask when you're critically analyzing an article. And I would probably start here. And again, when you're critically analyzing your articles, not that you have to go by this, but just that it's really helpful. And not all questions are going to apply to your article, and you're going to have to prioritize because there's time constraints. But this is a really nice place to start. And this is posted and one of your required readings for today. Okay. So we introduced the course. I introduced myself. We reviewed the syllabus and talked about discussion boards. So there is one due this week, and it can be found in Module 1, of course. We discussed how to conduct a literature review and how to critically analyze journal articles. So that's all that I have for you today. Always, please feel free to contact me with any questions, comments, concerns. I do have a tentative schedule for this class, but one of the questions, I'm pretty sure, in the discussion board was, what are you hoping to get from this class? Are there specific topics that you hope to learn about? And, I am very open to exploring topics that you want to learn about that I may have overlooked. So just let me know. I'm always available. I'm nearly always on email. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and my contact information is in the syllabus. So I look really forward to working with all of you throughout this semester. I'm very excited about this class, and we will be in communication moving forward. Thank you and have a great day.